Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to the Monday, November 8th Permanent Public Building Committee meeting via Zoom, as we've been doing for the last year and a half. If you guys will permit me, and certainly from the committee, but I'd like to propose that we dedicate this meeting to Mr. Steve Popper. I believe Steve is the last meeting, and for the number of years of dedication and work, I think it's only appropriate we recognize him in his last formal meeting. So if the committee will support that, I think we should put that in the meeting minutes. I hear a general consensus.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, I will do that. And Steve, thank you for all your work. And you're not off the hook right now, but I just want you to know this is the meeting in your honor.
Well, it's been my pleasure. It really has. So I appreciate the thoughts, and it's been great working with all of you and those who have preceded you, which have been a few.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, and this evening we have three main topics: the public safety, the Emery Grover, and the Ridge Hill items. We do have the approved the minutes to kick it off, and then we have any other business at the end. So with that, I'd ask for a motion to approve the last meeting minutes.
So motioned.
Okay. And a second. Thank you, George.
Seconded.
Okay. Any questions, concerns? Hearing none, coming to the vote, we'll do a roll call as we have on these virtual meetings, and I'll go down the list. I think some of you weren't in the previous meeting, so just pause. I know, Lynn, you weren't there. And if I call your name, just abstain or acknowledge that you weren't there. But George?
Yeah, aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Lynn, you weren't here.
Nope,
Erwin?
abstain.
Erwin? Roy?
Abstain.
Okay, and the chair is aye. Okay. Okay, great. With that, we will move to one of the first main topics, which is the public safety. I think we'll turn that over to you, Ken, if I'm not mistaken, and I think we need the user group in as well.
If the chiefs are there, and Keith and Miles.
Yeah, I see Keith and Miles still need to come in.
Yeah, I have to promote them to panelists. Where'd Miles go?
Why are we going back to this?
I believe Chief Schlittler is here and Chief Condon is not. And we've got the user group here. We all set, Ken?
Yeah, I'm trying to get the.
I'm getting Deborah Robinson in as a panelist.
I'm trying to get Zoom back. Can people see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
For some reason, my screen pops up, but Zoom doesn't. I'll worry about that when we're done.
Catherine, Deborah will be on the next agenda item.
Oh, okay. All right. That's why she's not. Right. Okay. All right.
All right. All set, Stuart?
Yep, go ahead, Ken.
Okay. All right, we'll start with the schedule update. Over at headquarters, the upper level and lower level paint is substantially complete. Ceiling grid is complete on the upper level and tile fill-in is underway. MEP finish work continues on the upper level and the lower level. They're working on the firing range in the basement. Plaza wall work is completed and they're getting ready to backfill the F wall. Metal panel work continues in the Chestnut Street side. Millwork is substantially complete on the upper level and continues on the main level. And tile work is substantially complete. Fire Station 2, inspections are complete. We moved in today. There is some site work remaining, and obviously the punch list there. They're still working through that. Two of the main items on the exterior that aren't complete are they got to get the message sign wired up, and the sign over the door, over the apparatus bay doors, had to go back to be repainted because the color was too close to the panel it was mounted on. So we want to get something that stood out a little bit more. We're still looking for substantial completion on the police side, January, February of 2022. Anybody have any questions on the schedule?
No,
Yes.
just yeah, go ahead, George.
My question is, you've completely moved out of Hillside?
Yes. Well, there's still some junk that they got to clean up tomorrow. That's just going to get tossed in the dumpster. But for all intents and purposes, yes, they're out and done up there on the fire side.
In terms, is there equipment that's still there that can be repurposed somewhere else or is going to go into storage? How much
Yeah.
of that goes back to the lessee?
Well, the obviously the tents and the trailers go back to the companies that own them. But we are trying to save stuff that we can. The transfer switch, the switch gear, the electric panels, some duct work, some fans, lights, exit signs, fire alarm stuff. So anything that we can save. We walked with building maintenance a couple months ago, and they picked out what they want, and that's what we're going to save.
Do we have a place to store that stuff?
They're coming to get it. We're just going to take it down. The contractors are taking it down. We're putting it aside. I make a phone call. They come and pick it up.
Okay, good. I wanted to make sure that we didn't get rid of some of the stuff that could be potentially valuable in future efforts for them especially.
Right.
Okay,
All right.
so, okay,
Any other questions? And do raise your hand, and certainly with something up on the screen, folks. Most likely I can't see all pictures, so hit your hand button, raise the hand below the screen, or just go ahead, Ken.
Okay. The ACL. A lot of these items you've seen before. The big item on here is the stair 2 flooring. I don't remember whether this was on there last month or not. This is the flooring that we had originally anticipated doesn't hold up to water, and that's the training stair. So we had to come up with an alternate method, and we're going to do an epoxy floor similar to what is in the apparatus bay, but not exactly the same. We're still waiting for the pricing to come back on that. Miles is working on that. But that's it on the ACL.
Ken, just to clarify that we're all set with the Hillside for the change control last time. That covers anything. There's no other cost within Hillside that we have risk of.
No, I mean, Stuart, I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of odds and ends pop up, but I'm not anticipating any major items. Everything's covered under the CO we did with Consigli. We've got a PO with the fence company to put up the temporary fence. And I don't think there's any other POs associated with it.
Okay. And then I didn't see in the packet actually I did, sorry. I had the financial. I was curious about the contingency in the bottom.
Yeah, we've got 400,000 or something, and we've just got the few months left. So we should be good with that.
Right. So that's good. Okay.
All right. Any other questions there? We move on, and Stuart, take it away with the voting items.
Okay. So we do have a number of voting items. As usual, some will be separate and distinct, and some I will group together, given the budget item. We'll start first with change order number 34 with Consigli for 22,840 coming out of the general contracting budget. And that is on that list that you've got there, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions on that for anybody? Okay, I'll put forth the change order number 34 for 22,844 payment. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any further questions? Hearing none, coming to the roll call. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Roy.
Aye.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. Okay. The second invoice is second item is a PSS number 2 for adding commissioning services for Wrist Frost Shumway for $8,460 coming out of the RFS budget item. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Roy. Any questions? Or was that Erwin?
I have a
Roy
question.
can have it.
Go ahead,
Are
George.
they finished with their work on Fire Station 2 now?
No. They still have to run through all the testing, and the startup is complete, obviously, because we're in the building. But the actual commissioning and sign off and acceptance commissioning still is underway.
How long is that going to take to finish that? Be done
Probably,
over the next
I
couple
would,
weeks?
based on fire headquarters, it'll probably take us a couple months.
A couple of months.
Yes.
Okay. Everything seems to be in good working order though, huh?
Yeah, we'll know over the next couple of days as they start turning on heat and playing with things, but the startups went fine. It was it's just a matter of like they're working on the graphics for the BMS system, for instance, or they just have to do all their testing, and Niles has to get in there and do his thing, and there's still some exterior commissioning that will have to be done too.
But the firemen in Station 2 will be going out of that station successfully, hopefully. Essentially, they're ready to respond to a call. So-
They already did twice today while I was there.
Okay, good.
Okay, the invoice is put forth. Erwin seconded it. Any other further questions? Hearing none, coming to the vote. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
chair is aye. Okay, next is an invoice from Castle Booze for their October 2021 services, coming out of the architectural budget for $17,930.80. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. Any questions? Hearing none, see none, coming to the vote. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
chair is aye. Okay, I've got basically 8 invoices grouping together in the miscellaneous budget, so I'll go through them quickly for a total of $9,642.98. First one is pods for $114.99. We have a second pods invoice for $114.99. We have a Wrist Frost Shumway commissioning for the PSC, $668. A second invoice from Wrist Frost Shumway commissioning the Fire Station 2 for $1,220. We have a UTS invoice for testing PSC for $970. We have a second invoice from UTS materials testings for Fire Station 2 for $1,330. Two more invoices. Milton Cat generator rental for $2,612.50. And the second of those last two invoices is Milton Cat as well for generator rental for $2,612.50. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the roll call. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
Chair's aye. We have two more invoices to cover here. Next one is from Granger for 15 drawer cabinet coming out of the FF&E budget, $1,294.44. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Erwin. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the roll call. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
Chair is aye. Last invoice for the Public Safety Complex and Fire Station 2 is in Oker's Company Audio-Visual Equipment invoice for $7,595 coming out of the technology budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, George. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Roll call. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
Chair's eye as well. And that is, I believe, Catherine, just to double check.
The consigli invoice. We skipped over that one.
Requisition.
Yes, thank you. So the last, apologize, that's my fault. Okay, the last invoice to approve is Consigli Construction for requisition number 34 through September 2021 for $1,920,149.59. Coming out of the general contract, but excuse me, out of the coming out of the general contracting budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? George?
A general one later.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. We'll hold that off. Steve, do you have a question?
Only a statement to close out this this section of the meeting. I'd like to extend.
Do you want to hold 1 second for this? We got this invoice to approve. Any questions on this invoice before I go to the vote? Okay, so I hear none. Coming to the vote, roll call. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
Chair's eye. Okay, those are all the invoices and voting items. Steve and George both have a hand up. You want to go first, Steve, or you want to wait till George is done?
Let George go ahead, please.
Okay.
Mine's
George?
a fairly simple one. Do I assume that that the generator and the pods are done with at Hillside? Are they?
Yeah, the generator that's being picked up in the next couple days. The pods is storing police stuff, so that won't be done
Okay.
until PD moves.
February. Okay. That's
Okay,
it.
thanks, George. Steve?
Yeah, so this being my last meeting, I do want to make the comment and express appreciation to both Ken and Mike. I don't think Mike's on the call, but getting this fire station completed with, I think the committee understands some of the problems that we've had going back, and that appreciation also goes to Consigli and KBA. I think the team did a remarkable job with their nose to the target, getting this project done. It's a notable project. And it's one, I think, well, the committee will get a chance to see it when there's an open house, but there was a lot of moving parts in it. And getting it done at the time on schedule was paramount to saving a fair amount of money with regard to continued usage of the temporary, where we have rental costs and absorb other costs with regard to overhead. So my appreciation to the entire team, and I think the committee should understand the hard work that went into getting this done. So thank you.
I would agree, especially with the soils conditions and everything else, to actually see the fire station. I remember I got up this morning very early because I had to get into town. I think it was 6 o'clock in the morning. And I saw a lone fire engine sitting in there. Like, wow, it's actually real. So, and then Ken, you said you've seen some rolls out today while you were there, which is even more functional, right?
Yep.
That's great. No, I think it's great. Okay, anything else on the safety complex, fire station number 2? Okay, we'll close this item down. Thank you to the user group. And we will go to the Emery Grover building. And is that going to be you, Hank?
Yes,
Do
it
we have the
will.
user group in?
And if you can let Deborah and Good and Galati, right?
She's in.
And
I don't.
Michael is here. Let's see, is Dan going to join us, Ann?
I do not believe so, no.
Okay.
Although Michael Grice might be joining as.
I'm here. Sorry, I'm still signed on to a different ID. Let me turn my video on. I'm just on a different Zoom ID tonight.
Oh, there he is.
So I should, I guess, start off by saying that Dan called me today. I think he spoke with you, Stuart, as well.
I
And
haven't spoken to Dan today, no.
okay. Well, he had indicated that Michael Grice will become the representative on this project for the user group. And Ann will remain on. So Michael will be taking over from Dan as we move forward. And what I sent out to the committee, if I can, let me see, share my screen. Here, open this up. One of the several things that I sent out to the committee was the, get this a little bit bigger, the schedule as we move forward. And as you may all know, should all know by now, the design funding was approved by a special town meeting. And we are kicking off today. We've actually had several initial meetings with PH+A, but we have 2 design projects in essence proceeding simultaneously. The hillside design and bids, we're trying to get those in hand prior to Maytown meeting, which is a real push. And the design for the Emery Grover, we hope to have reconciled DD bids in hand prior to Maytown meeting. And based upon those 2 values, we will be presenting a warrant article to annual town meeting in May of 2022 for the construction funding both of Hillside and of Emery Grover. That will enable us to initiate construction on the hillside project, renovation on the hillside project, so that occupancy can occur in December of 2022, enabling the bids and award of construction contract to a separate contractor for the Emery Grover gut renovation. And we're anticipating that would take anywhere from 18 to 20 months, with the target of moving school admin back into Emery Grover by August of 2024. It is an aggressive schedule, but we all think that it's doable. And we've been reminded by the superintendent that we should be very conservative in fit out of hillside for that temporary use. Does anyone have questions about this schedule?
I think it's a good schedule, and I think it is a push, but I think it's doable. I really do. I think it's very doable, and I think it's almost necessary that we have a move in so that we don't have 2 winters in Emery Grover. It's going to be hard enough to support 1 winter in Emery Grover.
As Ann will attest, the fresh air intake is achieved by not putting plastic over the windows the way they have.
Natural ventilation, as it were.
Natural ventilation.
Anyway, I think that date's a really critical date, and be great to be able to move them into that at that time.
And BH+A, Deborah has joined us, and Deborah will be leading the charge on the Emery Grover. I think all of you know Deborah. She lives in town and has specific expertise in historic renovation. And they'll have a parallel team headed by Walter Singler, who will be in charge of the hillside project. We're going through evaluation of existing furniture, trying to move as much as possible from the existing building over to hillside so that we don't have to buy any new furniture. The new furniture will then be purchased and installed when moving back into Emery Grover. Some of you may remember Walter from his work on the Rosemary Pool project. He worked on that one previously. Any other questions on this? Comments?
I have a question, if I could. It relates to the heating system studies that are going on. Hank, could you, I don't know if the rest of the team knows about what's going on in terms of the studies that are being done to revise the heating system and cooling systems at Hillside. I don't know if they are familiar with it, but I think it's an important study that needs to take place soon. I think it's already underway. So it might be good to just summarize quickly for the rest of the PBBC what we're doing there.
Yeah, certainly, George. The existing building has 2 boilers, oil-fired boilers, one of which has totally failed. And there are a number of pieces of the existing steam heating system that need to be replaced just to keep the building warm enough to maintain police temporary occupancy in the building over this winter. The building maintenance department is taking on the responsibility of upgrading the electrical as part of their budget, and a task that had been discussed and initiated prior to police and fire occupancy of the building, but was delayed as other scheduling issues, particularly the delays that Eversource caused in the installation of a new transformer. So the anticipated schedule for the installation of a new transformer, upgraded transformer, we anticipate will be going in March. That's the proposed schedule, and be completed by May, so that when the contractor comes on site, there'll be an upgraded electrical service. The analysis that George was talking about is looking at the option of putting in air source heat pumps to serve the occupied spaces that'll be utilized by school admin versus replacement or the addition of a new boiler. The building maintenance department had been already investigated looking at a new boiler, but timing wise, they were going to go for the funding of that in May town meeting. And it's quite clear that it should be wrapped into this project if it's necessary. And the design team will be looking at the advantages, the cost comparison between those two systems. The advantage of air source heat pumps is it provides both heating and cooling. The hurdle, George, that we have is that to put in those air source heat pumps, we do have certain energy code requirements, which might necessitate envelope upgrades.
Well, I know there's pretty strict insulation requirements, which shouldn't be terribly expensive, but I still believe that investing money in a new boiler for a school that's probably going to be torn down at some time in the future doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I would much rather invest in split units that could be utilized in other locations after they were utilized for school administration. And it also helps to solve both the heating and cooling problems at the school during school administration's occupancy. So it's one of those where I think I'd be hard pressed to respond to town meeting members saying we spent all this money on new boilers that for a school that we're going to tear down, whereas it'd be much easier to explain that we put in fairly efficient split units that we can actually take out and have them available for other locations as needed. It makes so much sense to me. In any event, I assume that study is still going to be going on, and probably you're kind of encouraging that study.
Absolutely. And right now, BH+A is looking at several variations of how to fit school admin into that building. And whether they're all on the upper floor, whether they're split between the upper floor and the lower floor. And that will really help dictate a number of issues relative to fire suppression, emergency egress, heating, cooling, so on and so forth.
Right. But certainly the I know insulation is a big deal to be able to get approval for heat pump systems or to make them more efficient. But while you've got the building open and you're doing work in there, I think it'd be relatively inexpensive to bring the insulation up to code so that it really makes the split systems work more efficiently. Anyway, just my thoughts.
What we don't want to have to do, George, is to replace all the windows with double or triple pane glass.
I understand that.
And so that's part of the trade-off that'll be analyzed.
Right. Okay. Anyway, I thought that was something that the committee ought to be aware of.
Okay. Any other questions, follow-ons I don't see any, Hank, so go ahead. Well, actually, I do have a question, Hank, is that just on the next three segments, right? The design docs and the user group. And can you just lay out the timeline? Because right now I see it is you've got SD and then you got design documents in February, March, and April. Construction docs ready by May. In the May town meeting, it will have the numbers. It seems a little aggressive, but there's a lot of work that's been done, so it seems like it could be doable, and the cost estimate and everything else. In terms of, you've got the user group and the architects, can you just highlight just some of the activities over the next couple of months? And then what are key points for us as a committee? Because I suspect we're going to have to review each piece or address a few things along the way. I'm just want a general view.
Yeah, so Stuart, in terms of the Emery Grover design, they will only be starting construction documents in May.
Yeah.
So we anticipate having a reconciled design development set and cost estimate by late March, early May to get a preliminary number into the Maytown warrant. And Maytown meeting, I think, is the 1st of May, correct?
Right, correct.
First week in May. So likewise, we would be getting through, we're kind of diving directly into DD on the hillside and then into CDs, trying to get bid documents on the street by late March at the latest. So we can get some preliminary numbers from actual bidders.
From for Hillside?
For Hillside.
Right.
In May. In April, late March, early May. And that is the biggest, most difficult push to get to that point. We are trying to simplify the amount of work that has to be done in order to achieve that objective.
Late March, early April.
Late March, early April, because the number has to go into the warrant almost 30 days in advance.
So
it may end up. Sorry.
Go ahead.
It will probably end up being a special town meeting warrant that is part of the annual town meeting to allow for as much time as possible to get those numbers.
I don't know if you want to wait for a special town meeting warrant. You may just put in a placeholder until, in other words, I think it's better to get the warrant in as part of the discussion so people are aware that it's coming in. We may not have the final number.
Yes, that's the strategy.
Yeah, well, that's
So
you'll have to work out.
From a big picture point of view, Hank, help me out here. The obvious intent is to have bids in hand for Hillside, for the renovations at Hillside. But obviously you will only have DDs done by April or so for Emery Grover. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you're not going to use, are you going to use those to go out for bids? Dollar bids, or are you just going to estimate based on DD?
We're going to estimate based on DD. The school committee, the superintendent did not want to go back a third time for separate funding of Emery Grover and wait until October special town meeting in 2022.
I think
Okay.
the challenge that I'm sorry, George, go ahead.
Well, that's a big effort, and obviously it's one that we're also going to be having an independent cost estimator working with Joel's cost estimator, so that you get the best estimate you can at DD, because that's our bite of the apple. We will not have bids in hand, of course, because we're not going to be able to get hard bids based on DD drawings. So my question is, we are in fact going to have to be very careful in how we come up with that number, because that's our shot at it. I mean, we did it with the police and fire stations to some extent, but
No,
we
we
had to
did.
really finesse the number.
We
But I
did
think
it,
the hard part is, and that's my greatest concern with this schedule. It's doable, but the pattern has been, and I'm not suggesting we solution or solve the problem here. I just want to raise it. So as you enter into this work activity, that if we've got an answer, great. If not, we better be very aware of it. I think the amount of scrutiny that's happened at the police and fire station when we did the DDs and we went town meeting, I think there was a little bit of push and shove on the contingency, a little push and shove about the costs. I think there was some healthy debates and reasonable pushback on stuff from one context, but not certainly from the people that knew and the user group. But I think what happened in town meeting with Emery Grover and the amount of dialogue that occurred prior and up to it, I think there is certain viewpoints on what the cost should be and not be, and what should be included and not included. So I feel there will be another healthy debate, and I think we're going to have to make sure that the reasonable voices are heard and contended with in that DD phase, because if we want to avoid a third bite at the apple to get this done, then DD is going to have to, the estimations are going to be really, really good. And the amount of pushback, because it's all vision, is going to occur. So the long and short of my point here is, I think we have to be very aware and cognizant of how we manage costs and what's going to go into the building in an aggressive timeline to get it to town meeting. I'm not sure if others agree, but I think there's a trend that's happened the last couple of years, and we're going to have to accommodate that in these efforts. Dan?
Steve, you were going to say something, Steve?
no, I think I said it. We have done this on a number of projects. So I don't feel it's unusual to go the direction that Hank laid out.
No,
I think
I agree.
Stuart is speaking to contingencies. And the usual way that the committee deals with situations like this, it's lately been putting on pretty hefty contingencies onto projects. I think you're going to need to look seriously at what is a reasonable contingency for this project. Otherwise, the cost is going to go beyond a number that I think the committee people are anticipating or expecting. So it's a balance. It's a balancing problem, and it needs to be, we need to address it in that sense.
Yeah, let me just clarify. I see Dan, you got your hand up, and Erwin, you got your hand up, but let me just clarify my point. It's not just contingency. I think that's the least of the worries. I know we've got a $21 million sort of top number that's been put out there. So for all intents and purposes, I think we have our scope of costs we get to work within, and to a large degree, the work that's been done today about the programming needs has been clear. My only concern is really not just contingency, but more so the questioning the programming and space. Everybody's poking at this thing. And I think there just has to be a level of management of expectations of what that's about, because you're going to go at the May meeting, and if there's not enough time, I think it's just going to brew stuff. But I'll leave it at there. I just want to watch as we go over the next couple of months and work together that we cover this stuff. So I don't know if it was Dan that had his hand up first, or Erwin, you had your
It was
hand
Dan.
up first. Dan, so I'll turn to you, Dan.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Two things, if I may. First of all, I want to, on behalf of the school committee, pass the baton for my participation as a voting member to Michael Grice this evening, who is on this call, but he will be the second rep for this project, Angulotti being the other. I will certainly participate by attending meetings, and I will be working behind the scenes with the architect, the design team, and the town. But I just wanted to let you know that, Mr. Chair. The second thing is, this is as a layperson who understands generally the design that has to happen and the amount of detail we need to go to bid. What I hope has been expressed, and let me express it now. In my view as a layman, we could move into Hillside tomorrow and run school administration. And I say that because I want the minimum amount done. The design, therefore, that we're embarking on should be for some key, I think, life safety features. There may have to be some sprinkling, there has to be electrical, and there has to be some way to heat parts of the building. Other than that, the building's ready for us. Sure, there should be some paint here and there, and maybe there has to be a door put up somewhere. But there should not be, I'm hoping, by saying all of this, I'm hoping that BH plus A will actually be able to really spend as much time as possible on EG, so that when we do go to Maytown meeting, we're going to have as much information as possible, which is what I think you're raising, Mr. Chair. If we spend all of our time designing Hillside and we don't get to EG, we will have a problem. And I know that's not the plan, but I want to emphasize that the focus and the dollars should be going into minimum needs at Hillside and maximum needs at Emery Grover for this project.
Erwin?
Yeah, I just wanted to build upon what you said, Stuart, and what Steve said about balancing, because obviously the difference between DD and CD would be the degree of confidence in what the expected cost is going to be, which means for your DD, you'd want to have a little more of a variance in what you think the cost is going to be, which would tend to drive potentially the cost up. And if you drive it up too much by being conservative, then you put in jeopardy, perhaps it's being accepted by town meeting. So that's the way I interpreted what Steve had said about the balancing act, that we somehow have to thread the needle and get a conservative enough estimate from the DD, but not too conservative that it puts approval in jeopardy. And I think I'm just saying what Steve and Stuart were saying, maybe in a slightly different way.
Any other questions? I know, Dan, you have your hand up, but I think you spoke, correct? Okay. Hank?
Yes, we also have a PSS to approve.
Yep.
And that was also distributed to the committee. And the total PSS amount is $1,276,740. And as noted, that will include the full Hillside design through construction admin, as well as Emery Grover design schematic through design development, plus the various reimbursables. And we're asking also that it include $30,000 for this laser survey. We believe that by doing an exterior and interior laser survey of the existing building, they'll be able to verify a lot of existing conditions that you cannot currently see from grade, or quite frankly, even see with a lift. Taking the architect or designers up to the rooftop. And so part of that laser scan would be an exterior scan of the building. It will also help them in terms of their assessment of the roof system, and is a much safer way to assess the attic floor, which is largely constricted from access. So the grand total we're asking for is this $1,276,740.
Okay. So I will put forth the PSS number 4 additional design service for BH&A for $1,276,740. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions?
I'd like to raise one.
George?
This is for committee's benefit more than anything else. I do believe we need to vote before we vote this, or maybe as part of this. I believe we need to vote to extend the architect into these phases of the project. I don't think we should assume it's a given. I think it was written into the original contract when we signed that with them, but I do believe we need a committee vote to extend them as the architect of record into the next phases of both these projects.
I believe I understood that to be true too, so I would agree. Anybody object?
So whether you want to do it, separately or together with this, it doesn't matter to me, but I think it needs to go on the record.
My recommendation, if there's no objection, is I would ask George or a member of the committee to put forth an extension for BH&A, and then we will do the PSS.
Okay, I'll recommend that we move forward from their existing contract to authorize additional services for both Hillside and the Emery Grover building in the amount to be included in this PSS.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Before I come to the vote, I will, from a roll call perspective, I should do Ann and Michael or Ann and Dan?
Ann and Michael.
Ann and Michael. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. All right, coming to the vote, roll call. George?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
Roy?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And the chair is aye. Okay, coming to the PSS, putting forth the PSS number 4 for BH&A for additional design services. Now that we have voted the extension of BH&A in the process of this journey to the building, Emery Grover, $1,276,740. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Hearing none, coming to the roll call. George?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
Roy?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Chair is aye. Okay, anything else, Hank? We
Well,
have
the
one
second-
more item, I believe. So go ahead, Rank.
Yes, we have just put out an RFQ for project management services that would include cost estimating. And we need that consultant on board so that we can get our second independent estimate. There was a schedule that was distributed. And we already have a number of respondees to this, which was also sent out to all of you. And what we need is to appoint a subcommittee to do the initial vetting or screening of any submissions for that independent analysis. And I believe previously it needs to have at least one member from the PBBC, and perhaps Ken Sargent and myself would also sit on this committee, this subcommittee. The qualifications are due on December 1st, and we want that subcommittee to shortlist members by the 6th of December, and then hold interviews on that Friday, December 10th, so that a recommendation could be brought forward to the PBBC at their meeting on December 13th.
And Hank, can I just clarify, this is the PM services just for Emery Grover, or the impetus is Emery Grover because we need part of that for here, and then services elsewhere? Can you just clarify?
Yes, as before, we have done this as a general qualifications-based selection. That consultant would be available to the committee, to our department for 3 years. Any assignments that come up during that 3-year period could be cost estimating. It could be assistance with pre-qualifications of general contractors and filed subbidders. There are a whole series of potential tasks that we could bring this PM firm on board for. As you may recall, with Sunita Williams, we had Daedalus projects, and we brought on board not only their cost estimating capabilities, but several project managers assisting in the field for that project. We don't know that that'll be needed for Emery Grover, but we also don't know exactly how rapidly other projects, schools, Pollard, Mitchell might come on board. And we need that I'll call it a stable of assistants. As Steve retires and Mike has moved on to sewer and water, and Steve Gentile is moving on to a different location, our bench is getting shallower. So this helps in that regard as well.
So the subcommittee would be PVC and you and Ken to for the sake of the services, of which some will be used for this project.
Correct.
Okay. In terms of the subcommittee, do we have any volunteers, 1 or 2 folks? The committee has over the years, we've kind of rotated through doing these various efforts, but we would be looking for a minimum of 1 volunteer out of the committee to support Hank and Ken in the department in this effort. Lynn?
Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, great. Anybody else to support?
I'd help out if necessary, but Lynn, it'd be great to do it.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, Hank. You have Lynn. I don't think we need to vote in the committee, do we?
No, we don't need to
We're
vote
just-
anything.
Just appointed.
Okay.
Hey,
So-
Henry, are they gonna, does the RFP ask them to do it electronically, or are they gonna send in, 17 books?
We asked them to do it electronically, but we will
Nice.
get, I think, 5 hard copies.
Okay,
And we would distribute, we would give you a hard copy and give the entire committee a PDF.
great. Excellent. Thank you.
So Hank, you're all set. Anything else we need to do relative to that topic?
I have a quick question on that topic. Hank, we were extremely happy, I think, with Daedalus, and I understand they've been acquired by someone. Is one of those companies on the list one that acquired them?
Yes, that
CHA?
is, that CHA is on the list. However, we need to have a cost consultant who is independent from the architect and/or the contractor. So we are precluding certain firms from applying. And because they are currently working on other projects with the town, they may be precluded from going after this project.
What's the company, CHA?
CHA.
Cleft
correct.
Harbor,
What is it?
Cleft Harbor,
Oh.
CHA.
Yeah, okay. All right. That was my only question.
Okay, thank you, George. So Hank, you're all set with the appointment and to carry this process forward?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So with that, we'll close down the Emery Grover topic and the on-call project management services effort. Thank you to the user group. And have a great couple of weeks.
Is Dan still on there?
No, Dan has left.
Left off.
I wanted to say thanks to everybody that helped us get this through town meeting. It was a little contentious, but with the help of the moderator, it made it through.
Reasonable help.
I'd like to echo that as well, and really note, Stuart, your particular assistance, as well as Steve and Hank as well.
Well, and all of the iterations that BH+A did for us were
Absolutely.
extremely helpful.
Yes.
Made a huge difference, and thank you, Stuart. Your remarks came at the appropriate time.
Great.
They weren't appreciated. They weren't appreciated by our friends from FinCom, but they were appropriate.
No comment.
Well, I can comment for you. More than happy to. Anyway, moving right along.
Great, excellent. And
Thank you.
I just, in all sincere, I just think that we still have a little bit of our work cut out for us in May. Hopefully everything goes smooth, this user group, the architect and everything else. But I think lesson learned over the last couple of years, the last couple of projects, how do we help this town see and not fight because they want to fight the numbers? But
Yes. Is someone working with the CPC to get their input regarding how much they would be willing to contribute to this project? Is that part of what Joel will be doing?
George, I'll be putting together an application for CPC funding that Joel and Hank will be reviewing.
Okay, good.
And that will go in prior to December 1st, which is their deadline.
Deadline.
Okay, great. Thank you.
okay, with that, Lynn, you have your hand up. Anything else that you wanted to? Okay, great. All right, thank you to the user group and everybody. We will close down the Emery Grover building and now to the next item, which is the Ridge Hill demolition. That was approved by the town meeting, special town meeting. Pretty straightforward after all that. So I guess, is this to you, Hank? Who's going to take the Ridge Hill discussion?
Yeah, we are, after review with town council and Dave Davison, we had initially thought we might have to go out to get at least 3 quotes, but because it is a demolition of a building and not the construction of a new building, town council has indicated that we have the opportunity to go directly to Doran Whittier and ask them to continue their services. They are very familiar with the project. They completed the feasibility study. And we have worked very effectively with the same team in the demolition of all the buildings that were taken out on the Sunita Williams site at Central Avenue. So we're very confident in their capability of putting together the specification and walking through any of the approvals. They're very familiar with the town. And so we'd like to recommend that we proceed with Dorian Whittier for this project as the designer. But that's really a decision PPPC has to make.
And that's a voting item, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so why don't we take that as the first voting item? So again, I would ask a committee member to propose that continuation.
So move.
Okay. I have a question, but you might as well get your second.
Second,
I'll
Second.
second. Yeah.
Lynn, thank you. Question, George?
Okay, so my question relates to the overall cost, and I've gotten some feedback from a number of people after town meeting, just choking on the number, the total dollar amount, and why is it costing so much? And I took the time to go through the estimate, and there are a lot of question marks that I have, some of which probably won't be spent, but we had to put them into the estimate. There's a bunch of questions that I have regarding the estimate and what it really will cost to get this done. It still sounds like a lot of money, over $600,000 for a project, taking down 2 buildings. And I understand it's not like the $20,000 number that got quoted by one of by Paulson, the realtor, but it is a huge dollar amount to take down 2 buildings and do a little refurbishment on the site. So I don't have a problem with Dorian Whittier, but I really would like to investigate carefully what the real potential costs are going to be for this project and see if there's a way that we can skinny down those costs as much as possible, but still meet all the requirements. So I'm really concerned about that dollar number. I think it's much more than it should take to do this job. That's just my gut feeling at this point. And I don't have, even though I have read through all the literature and I'm very familiar with the project, I've walked the site multiple times. I know what needs to be done. It still seems like an awful lot of money to spend to take down 2 buildings. And even though we've got some utility work to do, I have questions. So I'd like to be a part of the discussion with Dorian Whittier and whoever estimated this to really push as hard as I can to try to get the best cost estimate that we have, even if we just put everything else in contingency. But so I'm concerned about that, and I'll remain concerned until I have that discussion with them.
But at this stage of the project, we've been through these discussions enough and have believed in what the architects have provided us at this stage. Do we need to grind out more of that at this point with the?
No, I think we need to discuss it with them to see exactly what they've included in that. I've read all the literature, so I know what they've said, but I want to discuss what they're planning on doing specifically in some areas. And I'll just give you for instance, just to one little thing, and I don't want to get into the weeds, but if you take and I'm not going to get into contingencies, we've got those, we've got percentages, but for example, the work on the site, if you look at the site prep and site improvements, it's $141,000 to do site prep and site improvements. That's not counting the $114,000 for demolition. So it just seems like an awful lot of money to do site prep and clean up the site afterwards and reconnect the some of the electrical stuff and plumbing stuff. And so before we begin the project, what I'd like to do is ask questions of Dorian Whittier, specific pushback questions on why it's costing so much to do some of these things. Okay? That's
Yes,
just,
I think it makes sense, right? It's trust verify. So you're trying to help verify, but I
Well-
feel that the biggest effort, George, really is more around the bids are going to go out for the demolition. So I would assume that people are going to bid it correctly, right?
but, well, the $114,000 is what's in there for the demolition. The rest of the $603,000 is everything else.
Sure. But
Okay.
we have to do our due diligence through the process to make sure we're not just spending willy-nilly. So I guess I understand what you're saying.
I'm just, even at this late stage, it's not that late. I'd like to be involved with them to find out specifically why the numbers are so high.
It makes
Some
sense.
of them I have no problem with, but others I'm just, I can't defend myself, and that's unusual. I can usually defend myself with some town meeting members, but at this point, I just had to say, look, the best I can do is reinvestigate some of this stuff to make sure we don't spend any more than we have to. And I know we wouldn't anyway, but I'm concerned with the estimates that we have.
Agree.
So
So I think
better to go over it.
Right. So Hank, as you're moving forward, I think the ask is to include George and have us, make sure we're tuned in and asking the right questions and holding things accountable.
Yes, and once we have the independent cost estimator on board, we can get their assistance to scrutinize that as well.
Okay.
I mean, am I the only one on the committee that has a problem with spending $600,000 or estimated $600,000 to take down 2 buildings on that site?
Yeah.
Did anyone rotate? Is it newly rotated? Because I don't remember seeing that, but it seems high to me. I mean, demo is the easiest thing unless you're salvaging or have asbestos.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Well, we know we have a tank and we know we have asbestos in the building, but we know approximately what the scope of that stuff is, unless we find a tank that we didn't know was there. But that's, I think there's plenty of money in there for things like that, and those are the uncertainties. But that's fine. I'd just soon budget for those. But overall, it just sounded like a high number, so I'd like to scrutinize it a little bit more.
Okay. Point made. Erwin?
Yeah, I have no problem with scrutinizing it. I just seem to recall we had a discussion about the components of that amount. And I was curious how much of that number does have to do with underground storage tanks where there could be some uncertainty. Because I can tell you from experience, if you find a leak, that could easily run you 50 to 100,000 or more in cleanup costs. We certainly saw what happened at Fire Station 2. So
Yeah.
I don't remember
we-
what the breakdown was of other
about
than
80
demolition.
For hazardous waste remediation, we've got about 89,000. Plus we have contingencies that are in the amount of about, 75,000 or so for contingencies. Yeah, that's about right. Then we've got some escalation money in there as well. So I think there's plenty of money in there unless we run into a big problem. But we won't know that till we get there.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we want to deliver under budget and
Right.
on time, right? So, but I think the one thing.
Without
Yeah,
getting
go-
into details, the last question I have about that is, Hank, have we talked to the Historical Commission? Do we know we're going to get a 6-month delay on the building, or do we not know?
There have been initial discussions with the Historic Commission. We do not believe that we'll get a 6-month delay. That was part of the rationale for reducing the escalation allowance within the cost estimate. And I've asked Doran Whittier to provide backup, and we will probably go before or request a letter confirming that from the Historic Commission so that the building inspector could then issue his demolition permit.
Right. That'll save us some money right there. if we can do that. I just wanted to know if that discussion had started. Okay,
Yes, and
All right.
we're hoping to reduce the overall project schedule from 12 months down to 9 months.
yep,
There'd be nothing
Okay.
better than to lower the, deliver way under budget on this, but it does beg the question. If that does happen, we need to go back and review what did we learn, because it would be a real question of why the numbers were so off, and if, as a committee, we pride ourselves on doing the right thing along with the professionals. Somewhere something got screwy, but let's leave that to the point that we actually get evidence, but we do owe it to ourselves and probably the external to answer that question.
so whenever that initial discussion takes place, I'll be more than happy to be available and ask the tough questions.
Excellent. Okay, with that, we come to the vote unless there's any other questions. Okay, on the motion. Roll call, George,
Aye,
Richard,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
chair is aye. Okay. Anything more on Ridge Hill?
Well, I've asked,
go ahead.
I've
I
asked
assume- Go ahead, Hank.
George?
Go ahead.
I've asked the town manager to appoint 2 user representatives for the PBBC on this project, and we have not yet heard back from her. I was suggesting that Mike Retzky might be a good person, but we'll see what she comes up with.
The
George?
question I was going,
George?
okay, the question I was going to ask is, are you, if we've now voted in use of Doran Whittier, I think it might be a good idea to talk about what their fee is after we have our discussion of the costs of the project. Unless you want to do it before. I don't know how you want to do that.
I've already asked them to sharpen their pencil.
Okay.
Obviously not a percentage. Is that where you're going, George?
Yeah, I am, because there's not an awful lot of architect work on this project. There's some, and I would love to just have them do that, obviously, and pay them for it. I have no problem with that. I just want to make sure that we sharpen the pencil as much as we can, and we've been scrutinized. I want to make sure we've got the answers one way or another.
And George, within their prior estimate, close to half of their fee was associated with hazmat design, construction admin, air sampling, hazmat testing and inspection, and it's maybe 60-40. So
And
60%.
I assume handling the bids for the.
Yeah. And so we know that the largest exposure is dealing with hazardous materials, and they have the right people on the job. They were part of the initial study, and we need to keep them going.
Yep. Okay.
Great. Okay. Anything else on Ridge Hill? Okay, I'm going to close down Ridge Hill. Thank you. We do have one more voting item in the other business before we head to any other business that we have. We have a invoice on the Jack Cogswell storage building for Beacon Integrated Solutions relative to the solar panel. Also, to let everybody know, the solar panel expenditure was approved in the special town meeting. So solar panels are going on to the Jack Cogswell. They did approve the private, lease, so PPA. The invoices for Beacon Integrated Solutions for the September 2021 services for $2,283.77 coming out of the consultant budget. I hear a second.
Second.
Thank you, George. Any questions? Hearing none, coming to the roll call. George?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Lynn,
All right.
Erwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
and Chair's eye. Okay, that's, I believe, Catherine, that's the only remaining invoice on the batch?
Yeah.
No more, right?
That's
Sorry,
the-
sorry, I have so
Hank?
many questions, but I did have one more question about the
Hold
solar.
on, George, hold on one second. Hank?
And George, maybe this answers your question. We do have to apply to the DPU for the ability to put 2 net metered facilities on a single site. And because the town already has the solar array on the cap, we need to get a waiver, an exemption from that, what they call the single parcel rule. Beth has been helping us with that. Town council is requesting the affidavit from town manager. That application should go in later this week. It could take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to be granted. And then once that is granted, then we can proceed with the PPA, the power purchase agreement. And that would be an RFQ. Actually, it would be a direct contract with a contractor that is pre-bid under the power options. And we have previously been discussing with them, and the services and the latest that the PVVC saw relative to the PPA assessment of net benefit is spot on to what the latest discussions were.
So two quick ones. One of them was the one that you just mentioned, Hank. I'm assuming that PBBC will still be responsible for connecting with the folks that do the power purchase agreement. I'm assuming that, and that someone from your team will be the liaison. Is that correct?
That is correct, but like the solar array, they're responsible for all the contracting. They are responsible for all the maintenance. They are responsible for all the installation. So it'll largely be DPW coordination once they start construction.
Okay. That was my question. So is there somebody there that's willing to do that, or does it make sense for us to still be the party that does that? That might be something you want to have internal discussions with them on.
Yeah, it'll be a contract that gets signed by the town manager, and town manager will select how much involvement PPBC needs to have on this. I think the real point will be an initial review and then maybe some project updates as we go along, but it'll be relatively, it'll be largely in their court and not a lot of decisions. And the only invoices that we'll be paying will be to Beacon.
Right.
Okay.
And so there, it's much more hands-off than on any other project.
All right. When you request the DPU approval on this, it might be helpful to note that I believe this site was separate from the solar array part of the RTS site, wasn't it?
No, originally, yes, but that was before when we went and got the salt shed approval. Planning board required us to combine all of the 6 parcels on the site.
I understand that. My point is that when you make the point to them, you could say that these sites were separate sites. And for our planning board purposes, the planning board requested that we put them all on one site. So it originally was 2 different sites. If that makes a difference to them, which it may or may.
Yeah, that is in the application already.
Okay, good.
Right.
I'm done with my questions, Stuart.
Okay, thank you, George. Any other questions from others? Okay, Hank, we all set for Ridge Hill? And adjacent-
Yes.
Good,
And
okay. Any other business that we have?
but I also want to thank Steve for all of his involvement for teaching me and others the way of the PPBC, and for all of his hard work over these many years. Did he leave?
He's still here. I can see his pretty
There he
face.
is.
I'm here, Hank. Thank you. And I want to thank you and for being there so that I can walk away from this this position knowing that it's in good hands.
Here, here.
Great. Well, thank you, Steve, for all your dedication, all these years, and all the best. We'll obviously be in touch, and hopefully you'll come visit with all the doors opening in these new buildings. Go ahead, Hank.
And I'd like to remind everyone that on November 19th, you're all invited to a celebration of Steve's service to the town at 3:30. I think you have already received the invites from Catherine. It'll be in Powers Hall and at Town Hall on the 19th. We're making him work until 4:30 on the afternoon of his last day.
But his last hour will be fun.
And if you'd like to send in any comments, recollections, recommendations for his retirement, please send those to Catherine, and we'll be assembling those.
Excellent. Erwin, did you have a question? Right.
No, I just had a couple of remarks. First of all, I wanted to thank you, Stuart, for your remarks at the town meeting. And someone had mentioned about the timing. I always find it interesting that it's really the timing of the remarks that maybe has the biggest impact beyond the remarks themselves. And I thought when you spoke and what you said was really critical in getting that Emery Grover article passed. So thank you for doing that. I also wanted to just offer some quick remarks to Steve. And I say quick remarks as I'll have more to say on the 19th. But I don't know how many people on this call know, or I know at least one person remembers, Steve was a member of the PBBC and then transitioned into the facilities department. And it was pretty seamless, the transition. And the contributions he made as a committee member were phenomenal enough. And then he kind of topped that off by serving the town in the capacity that he's now in and will be retiring soon. So I want to thank you, Steve, for all you've done. And it's going to be a big loss to the town, but the town is better for it having had you there.
Thank you, Erwin.
I'm going to save all my comments until the 19th. I probably know Steve, have known Steve longer than anybody on the committee, for sure. So I have some comments I'm saving.
That sounds like it should be a lot of fun. I hope everybody can make it. I like it.
So in
Okay.
case some of you don't, I just have one comment I want to add. One of the things that I think most of you probably know this, but one of the things that has been notable in Steve's role as the manager of the team is that, yeah, he did the job as manager, and I think he did a great job as manager. But Steve always spent more time than it normally would take for a manager because he had such a vested interest being a member of this community. So it was like he was a volunteer and he worked for the town. And the hours that he put in were remarkable, in addition to just being the manager of the team. So I think that's something that is really important. And Steve, you're to be commended for that.
Again, thank you, George.
Excellent. I think that's a fine note to conclude this meeting. And Steve, your last meeting, you'll be here in spirit for all the rest. Okay. Any other quick last minute business, Catherine, or anything else we have to cover before we sign off?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Good night.
Have a great week.
Good night.
See you soon.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.